That is the hardest part of that ring.
For the hardest part of the ring.
Hello and welcome to episode 119 of Hardest Part of the Ring, the podcast where four friends get together to celebrate the wonder of professional wrestling. My name is Adam and I'm joined today by Sam.
Hey-o.
By John.
Hello.
And by Brett.
Hello.
Oh, you could almost cut out and keep that little intro there. That was perfection. I think
Don't
we won't
reveal
bother with
that's
hellos.
exactly what we've done for the last 80 podcasts.
Just a bit of time saving.
Usually I try and say it a bit differently and then it ends up coming out like I've
Really?
never spoken English before, or you guys might chuck in some sort of flourish. Sam, you usually chuck in something different than just
I
a hello.
normally do, but that's because and don't take this the wrong way, but you're quite a creature of habit. You have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like you say things consistently. So like, I feel like you always say the opening in the same kind of pitch and tone, almost as if you're a robot. This is meant to be a compliment and it's not working.
I think some of the best podcasts, you get that familiarity. Oh God, that familiarity. Oh my God, I can't say familiarity.
Difficult word, that, isn't it? Yeah.
Familiarity. Is that right?
Familiarity.
Asuka. Kazuchika. Okaida.
Okay, Dan is a really good name for him.
Anyway, only we could go from talking about how we nailed the start to then turning it all completely shit. This is Hardest Part of the Ring. The last podcast we did was 2 weeks ago, and it was a review of Extreme Rules. And I got a couple of bits of feedback saying, oh my God, you guys were really hot on that completely dogshit show.
Oh, really?
I don't even remember it now.
It had the swamp match.
Yeah.
That was shit.
I mean,
That
yeah.
garbage.
What else did it have?
It had Rey Mysterio losing an eye. Well,
Yeah.
allegedly.
That was a good match, except for the ending. I think we just gave an average score, didn't we? We gave it like sevens.
Yeah.
It
I
felt
think
quite
so.
middle of the road, didn't it? It didn't
It
feel
had-
very extreme.
Asuka versus Banks, which was good.
That was
Yeah.
excellent. How are we feeling about SummerSlam on a boat?
Is that what's taking place on a boat?
There's rumours, aren't there?
Oh
Really?
my days! Like
I'm up for it.
WWE are just fine with stealing ideas at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
So much for originators.
Anyway, I'm up for it.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Get Tugboat back. Is he alive, actually, Tugboat? Maybe not, actually.
You know, like if they do it on a boat, they've really just about ironically missed the boat with Kairi Sane's exit.
Yeah, exactly. But at least we get to see Rey Mysterio flung off the side of the boat to his death.
Yes.
That'll be fun.
Dominic, though.
Dominic
isn't it?
Mysterio.
Steph versus Dominic.
Wait, Steph versus Dominic.
Steph versus
Yes,
Dominic.
Steph's making a ring return.
Speaking
Wow.
of McMahon's
Scraping the
making
barrel.
returns, have you guys seen who's back
Yeah.
on Raw?
Yeah,
How can
Talking
we pop a
of-
rating?
stealing ideas.
Now, I would love to hear from the people who thought that Extreme Rules was dog shit. How do they feel in comparison to Shane McMahon returning on Raw?
God. I don't know what's going on. I think WWE are now trying to copy AEW by being like, oh, they're getting loads of old WWE guys. Maybe we should bring back an old WWE guy. See how it goes. Anyway, there's so much to talk about there. At some point, we'll have a good old catch-up about AEW and WWE sort of weekly shows. But for now, I think it's time to pass the mic, the baton, over to Sam, because this is The Undertaking, Volume 4. Sam, take it away.
What is The Undertaking, I hear you ask, as you do every single time we do The Undertaking? Well, allow me to enlighten you, Adam.
Thanks.
You're welcome. The Undertaking is a retrospective review of the pay-per-view events that The Undertaker's participated in. It follows his career from 1990 to 2020, and it provides a snapshot of the wrestling landscape at the time. Previously on The Undertaking, we reviewed matches 6 and 7 of his career, those being the 1992 Royal Rumble, followed up by taking on Jake the Snake Roberts at WrestleMania, I want to say 8. Thank you. If you'd like to catch up with that was episode 116. But this week we are looking at matches 8, 9 and 10, starting with SummerSlam 92.
Whoa! Wait a minute, what's this? Oh my God. That is a hearse. His opponent, being led down the aisle by Cole Bearer from Death Valley, weighing 328 pounds, The Undertaker. Well, you look at that. No, you look at that. I don't like to look at that. You look at that.
Match 8, SummerSlam 92 versus Kamala at Wembley Stadium, England. So, before we get to talking about SummerSlam 92, I know that has a very special place in your heart, Adam.
Oh, God, yes.
We need to talk about Kamala and address the elephant in the room.
What elephant's that, Sam?
Yeah, I was about to say, you sound like Bobby Heenan.
Yeah. Bobby Heenan is quite a interesting person in his own right. So obviously the egregious elephant in the room is the kind of Kamala's gimmick is probably the most racist stereotype of 80s wrestling.
Oh, that's a tough.
Oh,
that's
wow.
the next top 5, guys.
Yeah, I think we probably should.
It's certainly
it's
up there.
hardcore. It really is up there. It's outrageous. Watching
is.
it in this day and age, watching this is just, you feel like you shouldn't be watching it.
Absolutely, yeah. And you would, of course, be forgiven for thinking this is another Vince McMahon wet fart invention.
No.
But Kamala's character was portrayed by American, by the way, James Harris, actually predates his time in WWF by probably about 10 years or so, and was developed in Continental Wrestling Association by himself, Jerry the King Lawler, and Jerry Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett's father.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I knew Lawler was
Also,
involved.
Double J.
No. Of course, only Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett would be able to come up with something so offensive. But yeah, I mean, there's not a huge amount to say. We don't like the gimmick, do we? No, I hope not.
No, I think we're safe to go down that line. That's
Yeah.
I will say that as a kid, I did quite like it, but that's because it kind of fed into the narrative that I believed as a kid, which was that Africa was scary and mysterious, and I liked his face paint, and I loved his head, his like massive mask, his tribal mask, and as a kid, it kind of worked. I didn't realise it was inappropriate then.
Yeah, as a kid, the face paint, same with Papa Shango, the face paint was cool.
Yes,
It was
God,
exciting.
yes.
Although the body paint, bit haphazard, right? Like those aren't. What are they stars? Who's drawing those stars?
Stars
Been
and the
drinking?
moon, isn't it?
Like a backwards moon as well. Is that symbolic?
It's because he did it in the mirror.
I probably did.
Definitely.
Fun fact about Kamala, there was also a fake Kamala and a Kamala 2.
Was
What?
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did they appear?
Those are on the independent circuits. I think All Japan Pro Wrestling had Kamala and Kamala 2 as a tag team.
Amazing.
Wow.
I want to see more tag teams of someone gimmick and then someone stealing that gimmick.
I know, right?
It's so great. There's every time we do this. This is in itself is a spin-off pod from Part of the Ring, basically, and there always seems to be loads of other spin-off pods that we could do. I'd love to do that as well, Brett.
Yeah, amazing.
I think kind of like when you have a fake wrestler of yourself, that's when you know that you've hit big with the gimmick.
Yeah. That probably is a pinnacle.
Yes, we go back to 1992. This was Kamala's second return to WWF, where he'd been paired up with Dr. Harvey Whippleman and handler Kim Chi.
And for those of you who don't remember what Kim Chi looked like, he basically looked like Rorschach on Safari.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a
did.
beekeeper almost.
I was trying to understand what reason his name was kimchi, because it's like a fermented Korean dish,
Yeah. It was quite
and
weird.
I just didn't know how that tied into a Ugandan giant.
I think it was meant to be a little bit kind of Indiana Jones-esque, like, and this is his handler.
How?
Chi.
And so they went
How?
from Indiana Jones to
Oh,
kimchi.
like short round. I see.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe, I don't know.
Do you know who played Kimchi? Who's under the mask?
Yes.
Yes.
Steve Lombardi, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Brawler.
Indeed.
Mad.
Yeah,
Mad.
really mad.
So, yeah, I mean, when Kamala comes out with Kimchi and Whippleman, I think they say from the dark continent of Africa, which again is that sort of just generic, he is from Africa. But then they do say that he's from Uganda.
Yeah.
So I sort of thought, well, okay, at least they've actually named a country, and not just gone for the fully generic. But then Bobby Heenan pipes up and says about what he's going to do to Undertaker. He's going to put him under. He's going to put Undertaker in a pot and cook him.
Yeah.
Oh my days!
So,
Again, there's no excusing the just outright racism that comes alongside Kamala. And all the commentary associated with it. But yes.
It's always the commentary that's the worst, isn't it? It's always the commentary.
Anything goes at that time with Heenan. And we do love him for it in many ways. So, yeah.
Best heel commentator ever.
But the match begins, and am I right in thinking, was Kamala afraid of The Undertaker from the very beginning, or did he develop that over the match?
I think that came in the next match. So
okay.
I didn't get that from this match, but they definitely were harping on about it in the follow-up.
He was scared of the urn, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to really talk about this match. It was, to be blunt, it was 5 minutes long, and Undertaker just played out all of his moves.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay, yeah.
I went into these Kamala matches absolutely dreaded them because I've only seen a couple of Kamala matches and I hated them. But I really enjoyed watching him just move. Like, he's such a big dude, but he moves around like really softly and pillowy. And like every time he hits Undertaker, it felt so soft and kind of.
That's not a good thing, John.
just what you want. A nice gentle
But there was
tap.
something quite, I don't know, so kind of just drawn to him. I found it quite.
He was just
fixing.
trying to portray the opposite to this, like, savage cannibal, and he was trying to present a soft, caring person who's, doesn't want to hurt someone.
He was a fine young cannibal.
Oh dear.
I quite like Kamala's sidekicks. I think those are quite nice. Just throwing those out there. I don't know if they're attempted super kicks or whether.
Oh yeah, the little
they were bad.
They're so what you do as kids when you've just watched like Karate Kid or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
You're like, you do it to your brother, but it's just total shit.
Did we see the first Undertaker old school in this match, or am I?
We didn't see the first Undertaker old school, but what we did see was the first pay-per-view Undertaker chokeslam.
It was quite a good one as well, or not? I thought it was quite good.
I thought it was decent considering the size of Kamala.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was
excellent.
Good.
Yeah, I thought it looked huge,
real height.
And then immediately after that, he did the huge diving clothesline, which looked amazing as well.
Yeah, that looked cool. That did look cool.
The chokeslam itself was very cool, and the fact that kind of, unlike kind of Big Show and Kane, where sort of you lift him up and you chuck him down, Undertaker's one, he kind of lifts him up and then just sort of drops to one knee and turns it into a chokehold afterwards.
Yeah.
At least in this one chokeslam we have seen so far from him.
Can we go back? Because you totally missed out the fact that how cool it was Taker arriving on the back of a hearse.
Oh yeah, the entrance was the best thing about this.
Yeah,
one,
that was so cool. Like Paul Bearer walking in front slowly, raising the urn, and like Taker just on the back of that hearse. I thought that was really cool.
Especially as it was dark and you had all this sort of flash bulbs popping in the audience.
Yeah,
that's just something you don't get anymore.
No,
I love that. I think we talked about that on some of the old rewinds, didn't we? Just all of the flashes going off at once. And instead, you just get, you get nothing because people are just taking photos with their smartphones. But I suppose when it's dark, you get people with their flashes on, but it's not the same, is it? But yeah, I really enjoyed that, him coming out in the hearse, and our listeners will have already heard the little clip that we got from the start of that of him coming out. But I mean, Sam, you said we were going to refer to the fact that this was SummerSlam '92. Was that coming up or?
Oh yes,
Should
right.
I bring it up now?
Yeah,
because I want to talk about it.
Yeah. So Adam, SummerSlam '92, very special place for you in your heart. This is the first one you remember. Is that right, or your favourite one?
We talked about this in episode 1 of Hardest Part of the Ring, which is the podcast you're listening to, guys. And it was my earliest memory was this pay-per-view, and I've still got it on VHS, and I just love it. Whenever I see the artwork for it, it just, evokes all these memories. And I very, very nearly, because I selected this on the network and it started playing, and then I found myself watching the first 10 minutes, and I was so tempted just to watch it all. And then I thought, no, save it. We'll do this as a rewind, a proper rewind one day. But I love the clip at the start of the English kids. Yeah. And I'd love to. I wonder where they are now, because they're probably like 45 now. But some of the things they say, we've got a little clip, which we'll play now.
Going to be in Ultimate Warrior's corner today. No way, he's going to be on the side of Macho Man Randy Savage. This is a king.
And then there's also, I think at one point one guy goes, British Bulldog's going to win whether he wants to or not, in just this little posh English child accent. And it's just so cool. And then you get the Pipers and you get all the Regal stuff, and it just brings back so many great memories. And this era in particular, I think we're all very sort of fond of this era. We're going to talk about a Rumble again in a minute and all the different wrestlers that came out. Whether or not they were good, it was still nice to see a lot of them. And yeah, I just love this, and I can't wait to talk about it a lot more in future.
That's amazing. I actually didn't realise you had a copy of SummerSlam 92. I thought the story went that you left a VHS somewhere in your university home for some unsuspecting uni student to discover and watch.
That is true. Well remembered. But I have another one because I bought it on eBay. So my original one I did leave at my uni home. But then since we started this podcast, I bought one on eBay so I could have it again. It's on the bookshelf. Our very grown-up bookshelf with lots of lovely books, showing off how intellectual we are. And then there's suddenly SummerSlam 92 in the middle.
Amazing.
A stone cold classic. So yeah, this match generally, like I said, I like it for what it is. I think it's a very short match, only about 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Certainly a theme we're starting to see through a lot of Undertaker matches at the moment.
They really sold the Taker sit-up in this. I thought I really enjoyed Taker, rising after.
So yeah, what happened at the end?
Did he take the slam?
So
we will we'll go to the end shortly. Let's just quickly give this match some scores out of 5. I think.
Oh, we're going to do the scores before we talk about the end of the match. Controversial.
Because the end of the match then leads into the next match. It's a nice link.
Okay, fine. You go for it.
Yeah. Sam's in control, Adam.
You're right, man.
Leave it alone.
It's tough for me. Okay.
Okay, so Kamala drops... Kimchi hits Undertaker with a plastic safari hat.
Yeah.
Yep, cool. And then Kamala proceeds to do 3 very soft belly flops.
Oh, they looked awful.
They did look so awful. They each one he landed on his feet and then sort of went down, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah.
Like,
really
weird.
In all fairness, I never expected him to go to the top for the third one.
True.
No, he did sort of think about it and then thought better of it, thankfully.
That move more than any makes me agree with John's assessment of Kamala that he looks like maybe the softest man in wrestling.
Yeah, the way he moved was kind of lovely. you don't see it in a wrestling ring that much. It's great.
So graceful.
Yeah.
John, what would you give this match out of 5?
I'd say a 2.
Yeah, that sounds about fair. And what about Undertaker?
I've got to go 3. I actually think he was really good in this. Looked strong. He looked like lightning quick compared to Kamala.
I mean, that's not wildly difficult. Adam, where do you stand on the match and Taker?
Match 2 as well. It was fine. I quite enjoyed it for what it was, but it doesn't deserve any more than that. And then Taker, I would give. I'll go for 3 as well because I agree. What he had to do, he did perfectly well.
Brett.
Oh, I'm going to deviate slightly. I'm going 2 for the match.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to bring in a 2.5 for Taker.
And I too am going to agree with you there. I think that was a 2 for the match overall, and I think kind of 2.5 for Taker. It was going about doing the business, wasn't he, really?
Yeah.
Did everything he needed.
Yeah.
Just for our listeners as well, we are rating out of 5, so don't worry, these 2s and 3s aren't overly harsh. I'm not sure.
They're probably actually overly generous. If you want.
Perhaps. So this match itself, kind of, we gave an overall 2 stars out of 5. Taker's performance, we gave 2.75 stars out of 5, which is actually quite high in comparison to his previous outings of 1.8 and 1.125.
Well, the match, I believe, officially over as a result of a disqualification. Oh, a big slam by Kamala. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this bout, as a result of look at this.
Kamala doesn't know it's over.
The Undertaker.
And so, following Kamala's disqualification and possibly the slowest chase ever.
Yes. Was Kamala's face when he did see Taker rise at the end there amazing? That, I think that was the start, like you mentioned earlier, of him being scared of Taker.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Like that moment, his eyes just like wide as, and he looked great. It was
So
entertaining.
I think for all the kind of deserved criticism of the Kamala gimmick and everything around it, he honestly does commit to the part so much in kind of playing someone who is afraid of the Undertaker. And I think kind of it really helped the Undertaker establish himself as a kind of a scary force in the WWF. But yes, so the Undertaker would proceed to chase Kamala until November, where he would eventually catch him, leading into Survivor Series.
Oh, my Undertaker. Yes, my Undertaker has been working night and day on a custom-made coffin for you, Kamala. Then on Thanksgiving Eve, my Undertaker will be enjoying an early Thanksgiving dinner, while you, Kamala, will be the offering to those who dwell down below. Oh, yeah!
Kamala, you will not survive Survivor Series. Kamala, rest in peace.
Match 9 versus Kamala at Survivor Series 1992, taking place at the Richfield Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio. And as we can hear there, we kind of had a promo just before the match of kind of Paul Bearer and Undertaker prepping the coffin for Kamala. What did you guys think of the blueprints? They looked quite detailed.
Really good. I thought
Yeah.
the whole promo was absolutely lovely. We got like peak Paul Bearer. The noises he was making was great. The set looked amazing. I love the fact that it was actually a massive coffin and that the Taker was actually using the, what's that tool that he was using?
An anvil?
No, it's like shaves off pieces of wood.
Oh, I don't know what the name of that
A
tool is.
plane. Yes, John. He was actually using the plane. I was enjoying that, watching the bits of wood coming shaved off. I thought Taker's bit was good. He wasn't too quiet. And I enjoyed the way they shut the coffin door and then you got the bong.
Wonderful reveal at the end.
You
of
got the
promo
bong
there.
That's why it was so smoky in the background. He was giving Paul Bearer blowback. That's another spin-off.
Outside of some wild accusations about Paul Bearer and Undertaker.
Yeah,
And
allegedly.
what they get up to off camera. In the weeks leading up to Survivor Series, Paul Bearer would torment Kamala and his fear of The Undertaker, wheeling out coffins to all of his matches.
So
And
good. I really enjoyed this.
It's a really good way of going about it, isn't it? Just kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing
they showed
gets
it,
the
didn't
fear
they?
in someone more.
They showed him tipping up at Superstars and then at Wrestling Challenge, which is a terrible name for a show. But yeah, I loved Kamala. His reactions as we've mentioned, so good.
to be fair to WWF at this point in time with their roster, I'm sure wrestling was a challenge for them to televise. But this would mark the first televised coffin match and the culmination of the feud between The Undertaker and Kamala.
Amazing.
Oh my goodness. Look at the size of this coffin. Look at the size of this casket. That's not a coffin. That's a freight car. That's a car off. That's a caboose. Wait till Kamala gets a load of this.
I was so happy to see when the coffin was involved because I didn't remember or know that this was going to happen. And it got me more excited about the match. Because we'll admit, when we were talking about planning this, we were like, okay, here we go. We've got the Kamala matches and then, what's going to happen in the Rumble. We'll just get through these. But I enjoyed them a lot more than I was expecting to.
I enjoyed both these Kamala matches more than the Rumble.
There's probably something to do with time. They did not linger on these matches.
No, yeah, that's
which certainly helped.
I actually went for like a bit of a deep dive on Kamala matches after this. I googled what his best matches were.
Oh yeah.
Which unfortunately were the Taker matches. So I was like, okay, that's very good. But I started watching one of his really early 80s matches before he was even Kamala. He was called the Mississippi Mauler, and it was on World of Sport. So he's fighting some guy called Ray Stevens from Wakefield. And they had rounds, so it was like a 3-round match.
Yeah.
British rounds. They're
British
great.
rounds matches. Yeah, they've been having those recently.
Right in thinking that they actually brought back rounds for the reboot of World of Sport that they did a couple of years ago?
They might have done for a match, but not as a standard thing.
Whatever happened to that?
They still do the British rounds down in Worthing with Premier Promotions.
Do they really?
Yeah,
wow.
it is really good because it gives a different take and someone can get pinned as well or submitted if I remember rightly. But I think it's 2 out of 3 as well. So
I know Jordan Breaks has done a couple.
The last round.
They did them at Pro Wrestling Soul as well. Unfortunately, the other guy who was in that match I can't mention because it turns out he's a dick.
Okay.
Which is going to happen quite a lot, I imagine, moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, Kamala, God bless him, he looked quite confused by the rounds thing, especially the first time the bell rang. He was like, what the hell's going on?
Can I just check, Sam, when it comes to Kamala, and obviously John has done a little deep dive there, are we going to discuss at any point what happened to Kamala after this? Even if it's just a little bit.
It depends on what we're talking about here. Are we talking about losing a leg and not being treated very well by a company? Or
and his albums?
Losing both legs.
But losing both legs. I didn't know about the albums. No, my research went as far as kind of him aligning himself with Reverend Slick and ending up as a face, but...
Okay. Well, maybe at the end of this we
can get to that.
I'll dig out a couple of bits on him.
We're going to cycle all the way back, though, to...
His last match was in 2010 against a guy called Weedman.
Was that X-Pac?
I don't think it was. I don't think it is.
I was going to say, God, did he bring out the bong?
Okay, so obviously we have the match beginning. Finkel doing the announcements. Harvey Wippleman taking the microphone, and I like Harvey Wippleman, by the way. I'm just going to point that out. He reminds me of. Well, I say he reminds me. Robert Stone in NXT at the moment reminds me of Harvey Wippleman.
Yes, yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
But Kamala makes his entrance, spear, shield, mask, as standard.
Classic.
Looking quite worried, I might add, as well, of The Undertaker, who is probably one of the most popular wrestlers on the card at the moment, or at least kind of at this point in time.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that when we get to the Rumble match, but the adoration from the crowd is so evident across these matches, but particularly in that Rumble match. Just whenever he did anything, the pop that he'd get was just amazing.
Yeah. It was this. Was it this match or was it the Rumble? The kids dressed up as Paul Bearer.
Next, I think that's
I don't know. I missed that.
Is that Rumble in the audience? Yeah, I thought it was this match. He looked amazing, and he kept on doing the face and everything to the camera.
I'd say I have a lot of respect for that kid because you know what? It's low hanging fruit to dress as someone like The Undertaker, isn't it? You just put a hat on and you look kind of dark. It's real commitment to dress as Paul Bearer. I have a lot of respect for that.
Well, it's just a suit and
some
everything, and some talcum powder on your face.
I don't know. There's a lot of McDonald's involved in.
Yeah, you need to gain a few pounds.
Well, do you think a couple of months before you got the show, he was really thin? He was like, right, I need to commit to this. Mum, fatten me up. I'm going to be Paul Bearer.
But yeah, so we are going to get round to talking about the match. We have
come on.
Kamala.
I thought really had.
I really enjoyed the beginning of this match. Really, really enjoyed it. I loved Kamala throwing up the hand, threatening the chop, and then running. And then like stopping, turning around, threatening it. And each time, obviously, it not backing down the taker at all. And he went all the way around the ring doing that. Oh, so entertaining.
I think this is the thing, is that kind of the two characters, how just hammed up these gimmicks are, really do play off each other really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The match itself, obviously, kind of, once again, it was very much Kamala does chops and sort of sidekicks. Undertaker just does his moves.
We had a complete repeat of a couple of the spots from the first match. And I know people do that, callbacks to previous encounters and stuff. But the bit where Taker gets clotheslined over the top rope but then lands on his feet and just grabs both Kimchi and Whippleman by the throat. And then Kamala comes out and makes the save. They did the exact same thing in that first match, and it had the same result. I just thought it would have worked better in the second match if he'd actually like clashed their heads together or chucked them on the floor or actually got the better of them rather than Kamala saving them again. But
I think this is one of the things that we're kind of very much seeing about early 90s wrestling, is that kind of wrestlers were a lot happier just to kind of play out the hits, so to speak, kind of not worry about putting on an original match every time, but kind of just play out the same match a few times in a big environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was so much less pressure in terms of things getting shared and immediately going viral, and everybody being able to, so many more people being able to see wrestling events these days, I guess, and stuff like this. They had the pay-per-view, and then you'd have to wait for ages for the VHS to come out.
Indeed. And so there was one new part in this match where Kamala decides to grab a chair, and it's not clear. I think he actually swings at Undertaker's back, but he does do it the wrong way round.
Yeah, it does hit him on the back, and it is like upside down when he does it.
Yeah. Which is kind of beautiful in its own way, just because Kamala is a character who is very committed to the gimmick of...
Yeah, that's what it was. Totally committed to the gimmick.
Luckily, Paul Bearer is there to kind of just power up the Undertaker with the urn. And Taker sees out the match after a couple of attempted scoop slams, I think, from Kamala.
I think there were 3, weren't there? He did a trio, and each time Taker sat straight up.
I think you're right, yeah.
Which led to more crazy eye, terrified action.
And then you had Paul Bearer on the apron as well, didn't you? He was trying to do his stuff with the urn, and then Bearer got taken out. The urn goes flying into the ring.
Which is amazing. They managed to get it back in the ring like that, because it looked very natural.
Yeah.
I thought that was impressive. Good throwing action from Paul Bearer there.
Beautifully executed that.
And then
but Kamala wouldn't pick up the urn though, was he? He was too scared of it.
He kicked it out. He kicked it straight out first time, and Kimchi threw it back at him and was like, no, use it, and he dropped it straight away again. I think this is what saved these two matches, was both, like you said, it was their characters but the storytelling in it.
Indeed.
They didn't need to do too much else because that stuff was just entertaining.
I think that's exactly what makes this match work so well. It's just kind of, you're not going to get a wrestling masterclass from Kamala. And early Undertaker is very much a case of walk quite slowly and do these 5 moves. But the character work itself is really strong here. And I think kind of that's very much what makes it work.
I thought it was weird that this is a coffin match, but you have to pin the person first, and then roll them into the coffin.
Yeah, I was so confused at that. I watched this when I was a kid, and I loved it. And I remembered it because, for all the reasons we said. But watching it again now, I was like, why is he pinning him?
Yeah.
Yes. It's not even the strangest pinfall we're going to talk about on this podcast today.
No, it's not.
But Undertaker brains Kamala with the urn, pins him, and then the fun begins as he rolls him into a coffin, and
nails him in as well.
Nails it sharp.
Oh, look at this! The Ugandan giant is out. coffin. Oh, look at that. He's in the coffin. Uh-oh. The Ugandan giant is in the coffin, the hammer and the nails. Look at the size of those nails. He'll never get out of there.
Biggest coffin ever.
It was a
massive.
big coffin.
I was quite worried about it collapsing when he got rolled from the edge of the ring into it. I thought whatever was holding it might collapse because obviously
I was worried about his
big
head
dude
to start with because he wasn't aligned properly. So
He actually worked
smack
nicely.
his head.
He just slipped in there, didn't he? No problem at all.
Beautiful. Yeah. Lovely sort of velvet lining.
I always think like a coffin looks like the comfiest place. Like,
Right?
No.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Being
No.
claustrophobic, it does not look comfy.
jealous of vampires.
You see, this is the thing. I've been thinking this ever since one of my favourite films ever made, the early 2000s Daredevil film. When
For
Ben
God's sake.
Affleck
He's
is
trolling
basically
us again.
sleeping in
I
a...
can't believe we got through 119 episodes and this is the first time Sam has mentioned the Daredevil.
Oh, amazing.
God.
It just looks very comfortable, so I'm with you, John.
How comfortable would it be though when you're in there and the lid's on? Okay, a bit spooky, a bit claustrophobic, and then you've got bloody the Undertaker trying to hammer in those nails with his gloves on.
Yes.
Two big ribs.
Yeah.
Some of those nails he was very close to just bending or going in at a dodgy angle.
Yeah, he
Scary
looks
stuff.
very roughshod here. I would be a little bit nervous about that if I had thought about it, but I was just thinking about how comfortable it would be.
But I just saw all that beautiful work he'd done with the plane, like crafting this beautiful box.
Well, hold on, because
Yeah.
you say he'd done a lot of work on it, but I've got to be honest, I don't think it looks like the best coffin I've ever seen.
Inside
it's-
looked really
well-
plush, but the outside looked quite slapdash, just like a bit of plywood.
Exactly,
but
he just
it's-
put a couple of stars and a moon on it, didn't he?
It's like a Western, Wild West coffin. It's like the stereotypical, the first image of like a coffin. It's not like, the current plush
Mahogany.
version. Yeah.
I suppose for me, the bar is set by the coffin they used for Big Show's dad. That Big Boss Man felt like he needed to take.
I wonder, I'm surely that was available, but not big enough, I guess.
But top 5 coffins is another podcast we will be doing.
Yes.
Ratings out of 5 for this. I'm going to go first.
Go for it.
Shit.
And I'm going to say this match for me is a 4 out of 5. I think this is a really...
Whoa! I thought I was going to be crazy by going 3, but 4.
That is
Amazing.
mad.
I just
I
really
love Sam's
it.
ratings.
I just think it's a really nice, good little coffin match. Undertaker himself also a 4.
Ooh. I mean, the thing is, I'll go next because I'm talking. But originally I wrote down 2.5, 2.5. But there is something about talking about this with a bit of hindsight and talking about all the different elements. And Kamala's getting a lot of love for his facials and just the role that Paul Bearer played, the Kimchi and Whippleman, the coffin, the hammering the nails. I think you're onto something. It's definitely not a 4-star, but I will upgrade mine to a 3 for both.
I think the thing is that the reason I wanted to go first was because I knew I would get shit the moment I gave it this rating.
You were desperate for that shit as soon as possible.
And yeah, I wanted to get it out of the way. I didn't want to be talked down by your negativity, John. John, what would you give this?
So I'm giving the match a 3, but I'm giving Taker 2.5 because I think this is a Kamala show.
That's fair.
I like that. I like that.
Brett?
I'm gonna agree with John. I'm gonna go a 3 and a 2.5.
I was so surprised by these matches. I loved them.
See, the beauty is that kind of ultimately we've given this a decent rating overall. The match itself a 3.25 and Undertaker's performance a 3. Feels like the right score to me.
Yeah, in my head, this match is like the perfect gimmick 90s match. Like early 90s match from my childhood.
Very much is, isn't it?
Should we just talk Kamala a little bit? Because I did go onto his Wikipedia before we move on.
Please, go for it.
So, I mean, basically a lot of this is going to be me reading stuff verbatim from wikipedia.org.
Hey, Adam, don't give away all the secrets about how we do the podcast.
Yours is coming from your memory, Sam. We know it is.
Actually, mine's coming from Bleacher Report.
Kamala, obviously, as we said, his real name James Harris. He is still alive. He's 70 years old now. He obviously, I skip all the stuff about wrestling and just went straight down to his personal life because that's where all the good stuff usually is. He's had some horrible times. In 1993, he was called away from a WWF tour in Oakland, California show when his youngest sister and her stepdaughter were shot to death, is the way Wikipedia have phrased it. The killer attempted suicide, but only severely disfigured himself. So that's also a horrible little detail.
I think he got fired for that, didn't he?
What, the killer?
No, I think Kamala got fired from WWF. I might be making this up.
Well, then it says after his WWF release that August.
I think they fired him for running away to deal with that situation.
Yeah, he then
The
tried really
ever-caring
hard.
Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically quit and then was trying to follow that up to get an arrest and a conviction. And the guy was sentenced to life imprisonment. So that's great. And Kamala then went on to help raise his niece. He is a softie. He's a big old softie.
So Kamala is a very interesting character because I believe as well his dad was shot and killed when he was 4. So it's real dark times for him. I believe Bleacher Report have actually done a documentary on Kamala, which from the parts that I watched of it was absolutely fascinating. I would really recommend checking it out because he was very hard done by. Even in the wrestling world, he was not being treated as fairly as his peers and wasn't being paid as well as his peers either. And it is incredibly interesting.
It's a crazy story. Yeah, his dad was shot during a dice game.
Oh, good Lord.
But let's go to something a bit more funny before we move on, which is his music career, because since 1993, same year in which that awful event happened, but sometimes beautiful things can come out of the darkest times, because he started writing, performing and producing his own music. He's written over 100 songs. Some discuss his frustration with the working conditions he experienced in the wrestling industry, but most notably they talk about the low pay. His debut album was called The Best of Kamala Volume 1. That's
Nice.
a bit like Goldie Looking Chain's first album being called Greatest Hits.
Very bold naming your anything volume.
Yeah, very true. We're already on Volume 4, so fuck you, Kamala. And that is pretty much all I can tell you right now. But I think... I've got to be honest, I listened to an episode of Wrestle Me ages ago. They talked quite a lot about Kamala, and I think they played a couple of clips from some of his songs. Quite good. Quite good.
I imagine he's got a lovely voice.
Almost definitely.
Fair play to Kamala.
Yeah.
And so, following on from this match, Kamala would actually begin turning face, turning on Kimchi and Dr. Harvey Whippleman, aligning himself with the Reverend Slick, who actually got a crowd chant going, which feels very strange in this early 90s point of "You are a man," and the crowd would literally chant this to him because he was being treated like an animal, which incredibly strangely self-aware, perhaps.
I doubt that. I very much doubt that.
But yes, so Kamala would begin turning face, and for The Undertaker, he would see out the rest of 92 basically just beating up mid-carders. At one point as well, main eventing the first episode of Raw against Damien Demento.
Lovely. That's annoying though, Sam, because that was one of the facts I have in my Undertaker Facts document, that he headlined the first episode of Raw, so I'm going to have to delete that one.
Cross that off the list. But the next major feud would be around the corner, starting at the Royal Rumble, which we will get to after Adam's Undertaker Fact.
You want to hear an interesting
Undertaker fact?
From Courts Unknown. Oh, I've given this fact a little title, a pun title. I'm not going to do that every time.
It's like Trivial Pursuit.
So we all know that Mark Calloway is the Deadman. But before that, he was very nearly the Dunk Man due to his skill in the game of basketball. Because before getting into wrestling, he had a stint as a basketball player playing for Fort Worth's Texas Wesleyan University. He was a hot property. Apparently, he was famous for coming up with a left-handed shot despite being a right-hander. Ooh. Wow,
That sounds
trickery,
such
eh?
a dodgy non-fact, but
Shut up. But believe it or not, and you can very much believe it because we've witnessed it and now we're talking about it, he actually went on to become a wrestler. And that's this week's fact. Please, let's play this thing and get back to the content that everyone wants to hear.
I got a fact.
Oh,
The Undertaker was ginger.
Oh,
I like it. I like it. I didn't have that one on my list, Brett, so well done.
There you go. You didn't know.
You want to hear an interesting Undertaker fact?
I'm taking this train and I'm putting it back on the rails. Match 10, Royal Rumble at the Royal Rumble 1993, taking place at the Arco Arena in Sacramento, California. Booked strong through his 2-year run at the WWF so far, Undertaker would go into the Royal Rumble 93 as one of the favourites to win the match. However, the week before the Rumble, Harvey Whippleman would drop a promo on Wrestling Challenge claiming Kamala would never be the same again, but also added WWF would never be the same again after he dropped the big bomb. What the big bomb is, we will address now, because we are talking Royal Rumble 93. And the match starts with Bob Backlund and Ric Flair.
Yeah, although actually, did you see
the other way
before?
around, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, Flair would have won.
It was. The match actually started with Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. I can't believe that. I'd never actually seen them. I didn't realise they were American either, but incredible.
Huge signing for WWF there. Two of the biggest stars in the company at this point in time.
Huge personalities of history. Unbelievable they were there. But obviously, that was because WrestleMania was at Caesar's Palace in Vegas that year. So they did a little intro, didn't they? Talking about, obviously, the winner's going to main event WrestleMania.
They advertised Caesar's Palace as fun for the whole family. And I don't want to be the one to point out the obvious here, but if your whole family is over 21 years old, I'm sure it is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do have a quick clip that we can play of the wonderful Julius Caesar introing this match.
Cleopatra and I, Caesar, will cordially greet you as you enter our domain where your every whim is waiting to be satisfied, where your desires will be fulfilled, where you will feast on succulent food and be royally entertained. All this and more awaits you, your friends, and your family. Furthermore, let it be known that the winner of today's next match, the 30-man over-the-top rope Royal Rumble, will meet the World Wrestling Federation champion at WrestleMania in the famed Caesars Palace Stadium. And now, let the games begin!
So, do you know who else appeared before this match as well?
Loads of other wrestlers and other matches.
One in particular was introduced by Bobby the Brain Heenan, was little-known wrestler Lex Luger, better known as Narcissus at the time.
Yeah, he did have a name like that.
Yeah, it did. Not for long, though.
Because didn't he have like a mirror that he used to have in the ring, and he'd pose?
One of my most disliked wrestlers of all time, Lex Luger.
Yeah, this was quite fascinating, to be honest. But yeah.
Anyway, Rumble.
Rumble. Ric Flair, Bob Backlund.
Bob Backlund's a bit weird. Came out to no response from the crowd. Like, stony silence.
It was his comeback, wasn't it? And they kept on mentioning that he was 43. And it was like his comeback.
They didn't mention, I think Ric Flair was also 43.
Was he really?
At this point. Yeah.
Indeed.
And Ric Flair looked like, I think, the most ripped I've ever seen Ric Flair in this match.
So, interestingly enough, this match itself, spoilers of Bob Backlund actually beating Ric Flair's record for kind of longest time in the Rumble.
From the year before.
Much from the year before. In fact, the 6th year in a row that the longest time had been beaten. But very much on the back of Ric Flair had already handed in his notice and was going.
Was he really?
Yes.
I mean, that is also such a Vince thing to do.
Such a
You've handed in your notice.
Flair.
Here goes your record.
Indeed.
What a dick.
I mean, fair play to Backlund. He hasn't been in the company for about 10 years. Coming back into this and lasting that long in a Rumble is impressive.
To be fair, I'm trying to think back of Bob Backlund's performance here, because let's be honest, it was the man of the match performance, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure he didn't do anything the whole match up until maybe the hour mark when he did one suplex.
Yeah.
There was a lot like early on, and then there was a bit loads of people trying to chuck him out, and he just kept on like, holding on. But then he did, I was going to say did a Jericho, but obviously Jericho did a backland and rolled out on the underneath and stayed out of the ring for like 20 odd minutes.
Do you want to know a little fun fact about Backlund? 2 championship reigns. His first one is the second longest in history. His second one was 3 days, about 12 years later.
Oh,
Wow.
that's fascinating.
In the famine.
I believe Bob Backlund is one of the first openly gay wrestlers as well.
Is he? I didn't know. Wow.
Oh, I'm actually not sure if that's true or not. So
Cut that. Jesus Christ.
I heard that Bob Backlund is actually from Mars. I can't confirm that at all, but just throw that out there because it might be true, and then I'll sound really cool.
I might have missed it, but I don't think I did. I was very disappointed that I did not see Bob Backlund do a chicken wing.
Me too. I wanted to see.
I tell you what he did do that was memorable for me. Possibly the worst clothesline ever at the end to IRS, towards the end. I mean, he was doing a great job of looking tired.
Oh, did you
but
not
the clothesline was dreadful.
That was dreadful, but like IRS did not sell that whatsoever. Like
there's barely anything to sell.
No, but like, well,
I get what you're saying.
No, but that's the thing. Like you say,
his job.
but like he hit him, so his job is to like take the bump, not like stagger a couple of steps. There was so many incidents like that in this Rumble with people just not taking bumps, except for Ric Flair, obviously.
There was another great moment with Backlund where he was holding Jerry Lawler quite late in the match, and Mr. Perfect went to chop Lawler. But as he chopped Lawler, he also smacked Backlund really hard in the chest, and Backlund just melted him like, fucking hell, mate. He sort of staggered to the ropes like, oh, God damn it. It was very funny.
So to run through the entrance of this Royal Rumble, which admittedly kind of, especially by the standards of the previous year's Royal Rumble, was quite lackluster. We have Ric Flair, Bob Backlund opening up. We then have Papa Shango, Ted DiBiase and a Nasty Boy.
We need to do 10 minutes on Papa Shango.
He was only in it for about 2 minutes, wasn't he?
I was grinning from ear to ear when he ran out, and I was like, I love doing this podcast. I love doing the Undertakers. Here we go, a bit of Shango. 20 seconds.
20 seconds. On the plus side, he hit his cue this time, so getting better.
Very true.
Papa Shango, Ted DiBiase, a Nasty Boy. I wasn't sure which one because they never referred to him by name.
They weren't sure.
It
either.
was Knobs.
It was
the blonde one.
Just
Knobs.
quickly, because
Hogan's mate.
Yeah.
This really frustrates me a lot. Is that kind of the Nasty Boys? It's hardly Jim and Jey Uso, is it? Like, surely they look quite different to each other. The commentators could learn which one is which.
They could.
Good point.
You're right.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Quick point. The Nasty Boys, right? They were not obviously pretty looking people by any stretch of the imagination, but they had the most awesome gear in that time.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
like
especially
the
Rumble.
typeface on the Nasty Boys on the shirt, and then the paint, splat. Like it was awesome. Sorry, that's all I'm going to say on that.
I was going to say the Nasty Boys gear always reminds me of those two tossers at the NXT UK show who were wearing Nasty Boy t-shirts and were just trying to get them camera the whole time.
Oh yeah, they ruined it.
So yes, a Nasty Boy, Virgil, Jerry the King Lawler, Max Moon.
Worst ring
Love
gear of
seeing him.
all time.
Yeah, I love his ring gear, and we loved talking about it in our top 5 wrestler ring attire, which you can go back and listen to. But I also loved his drop kick. He didn't do much, but he did a great looking drop kick.
No, but he also did a great sort of heel kick to I can't remember, was it Lawler or someone in the corner? And I was like, oh, that's a great sort of back heel kick thing that he did, and then he went to do it again, and then he got chucked straight out on the second one, and I was like, oh, not that good then.
Yeah. Max Moon was hard done by here. Tenryu, and then probably the first interesting entrant to this Royal Rumble at number 10 was Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, it was bang average, probably below average before Mr. Perfect came out, and then at last there was some excitement.
When he came out, he started fighting with Flair, and everyone else in the ring was just like chilling out and just watching him. Like, I swear to God, Tenryu was just having a fag, just leaning against the ropes, just watching those two work.
Many times throughout this match for Tenryu.
for lots of these average wrestlers, and the crowd loved that. Absolutely loved it when it was Flair versus
it was
Mr. Perfect.
electric.
And that got me thinking, here we go. Here comes a good rumble. Here comes a nice stretch from Mr. Perfect. And he really wasn't in there for that long.
No, I don't think he didn't seem like he cared much in this either. He sort of just like, he wasn't picking good guys or bad guys. He was just like wandering a hit here, a hit there, nothing. Like, he didn't really go for much at any point. I was just like, he's not into this.
You know, there was one point during this match actually where Mr. Perfect did my favourite thing ever, which is like, you know, the wrestling equivalent of like when someone goes for a high five and the other person just blanks them.
Yes.
Bob Backlund put someone in a full Nelson for Mr. Perfect to chop, and Mr. Perfect just completely ignored him. And eventually Bob Backlund just let him go.
Yeah, that happened like another 2 times, I think, and both Virgil did it to someone, and Coco Beware did it, and each time no one like took up the mantle.
Unbelievable, I love it. Following Mr. Perfect, we had Skinner, who ironically skinned the cat.
Yeah, that was quite impressive. I was impressed with that.
He turns up so often when we do these rewinds and stuff like this, and I have no recollection of him.
No, me neither.
Me either. I just never wanted to mention
before.
it.
And I watched at this point, but like, and I'm like, now I realise he keeps cropping up, but like,
so just a man.
You were just never there in my mind.
What we're saying on Hardest Part of the Ring, and we're revealing this here and now, is that Skinner is a time traveller.
Yes.
I think him and Berserker are just wrestlers that just turn up for rumbles.
And then number 12, we had someone who had put on a few pounds, was Coco Beware.
Yeah, he did.
Lovely.
I didn't recognise him. I was like, who's that guy dressed as Coco Beware?
I didn't realise Coco Beware was so short.
I didn't either.
But also, seeing Coco Beware in his high energy gear in this rumble made me think, yes, Owen Hart's coming in.
Well, you're lucky, Brett, because pretty much every tag team with both partners was in this rumble.
Yeah. And we'll get to Owen Hart's entrance, and I think Brett will be sad about it. he comes up later, doesn't he?
So, yes, we had Coco Beware, Samu, the Berserker, and then number 15 himself, the man, the legend, the Undertaker.
Here comes another one. Oh, it's the Undertaker. Odds-on favorite here in the Royal Rumble to walk out of here victorious, and he's here to a standing ovation. By the time he gets to the ring, it'll be time for WrestleMania.
So, Taker, exciting. The moment we'll be waiting for. I quite enjoyed that he came in exactly halfway through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely probably the pop of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, he would go on to eliminate all the superstars, win the Royal Rumble, and have an amazing match. Wait a minute.
At least he did. I mean, one thing that this Rumble didn't really have at all were impactful entrances or somebody coming down, like you see so much these days, running down, eliminating a few people, doing a couple of good moves and looking strong. There were so many entrants where somebody would come down, get in the ring, and wouldn't even necessarily do anything. Would just walk up to the closest guy and start clubbing him or kicking him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas a Taker got some eliminations.
It was the least imaginative Rumble, I think.
Definitely.
It just felt so poorly booked. Like no one had any idea what to do.
No, they really didn't.
It was shit.
They were walking around. So many wrestlers were walking around thinking, "Who shall I, hit? What shall I do?"
Yeah.
And no one was really like reacting to it either. Like I said, like people weren't taking bumps. They weren't really aware.
No.
They would just like hit someone a couple of times and then go on to the next person. So there was no real like feuds throughout. Because sometimes a few people keep coming back to each other but it just didn't have any of that.
Just no real jeopardy there. But the Undertaker comes out. He cleans house quite a bit, doesn't he? Removes quite a lot of people.
He bloody kills one of their head shrinkers by throwing him out on his back on the hardest part of the ring.
Oh, he did,
yes.
didn't
That was nasty. That was nasty. I loved it.
However, non-Royal Rumble entry and debuting... I don't want to use the word superstar. I feel like that's quite generous. Giant Gonzalez...
what do you mean non-Rumble entry? Was he not?
No.
Yeah, he's not.
Giant Gonzalez was not a member. Was not a participant in the Royal Rumble.
Oh my days! I didn't even realise that. No, I got confused because at many points wrestlers were doing the 10 punch on the top turnbuckle, and so the crowd were counting to 10. And each time I thought, then the countdown would happen again. And I thought, we've just had a wrestler. But then I was like, but I can't remember what wrestler that was.
There are a lot of forgettable wrestlers.
Good way of telling it. Basically, if someone's in the corner punching them, it's not a countdown.
No, but it wasn't always, the camera wasn't always on that person either, though. You only saw it at the end. So it was like, so many countdowns.
And so Giant Gonzalez makes his debut. We're going to be talking a lot about Giant Gonzalez in upcoming episodes, but initial impressions of the allegedly 8-foot man who...
He is fucking big.
Yeah,
that was really fucking big.
That was the good thing about seeing him, was like, you forget, like, he was massive. When he ended up like squaring up, I mean, that weird square up with Taker, but when they finally like were next to each other, I was like, Taker looks tiny.
Yeah, because Taker's what, 6'7"? He's gigantic himself. Gonzalez towers above him.
Yeah,
absolutely
also
towers.
I thought it was amazing. Like, he was so ripped. It basically looked like he didn't have any skin. It's like he didn't have skin. It was just his muscles showing and then some hairy bits.
Bits.
Now, I always feel remiss talking about this because I think this is very much a subject I'm into only, but have you guys ever heard of the anime Attack on Titan?
I've heard of it.
He does look like one of the giants.
Okay, cool.
Do they peel their skin off?
Yeah, they do, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if kayfabe we're meant to believe that Giant Gonzalez is wearing anything and that's just what he looks like.
It's weird, isn't it? Because are we meant to believe that's just his skin?
I think that's what they were going for, which made me most uncomfortable when the camera was like low and behind him, and you sort of saw there was there was no hair in the gooch area.
I like demanding that camera shot. Jesus,
I like it quite a lot, but I think it's because it's an iconic image from wrestling history. So to see it was like, yes, this is classic. But at the time, I wonder what people thought of that outfit. So weird.
It's weird, utterly bizarre. This, and obviously, Giant Gonzalez would come out and beat the ever-living shit out of the Undertaker, eliminating him from the Rumble.
Yeah. Meanwhile, people are coming in, and absolutely there's no focus on what's happening in the Royal Rumble. It's all about watching what's going on between Gonzalez and Undertaker, which is great for us.
And there were people who I was like, "When did you come in?"
Yeah,
and then that's when Bob Backlund suddenly like reappeared.
So Giant Gonzalez is loving life as well during this debut. He's like celebrating and beating the shit out of the Undertaker and keeps taunting, and the whole crowd clearly hates him. It's absolutely fascinating watching this, and kind of, if they're going back to Daredevil 2002, very much so bad it's good is how I would describe the Giant Gonzalez debut.
It was watching him do his little stomps, like, this step like was also quite ginger and light-footed for such a giant person, and like wiggling his hands, like it was like, you do not look menacing right now, except for the fact that you are fucking massive.
He's got such a cute cuddly face.
Cuddlier than Kamala.
Yeah, because it's kind of hairy. He just looks like a IT professional.
I was going to say, he looked to me like a competition winner. Like, it looked like he didn't know he was going to be on the Royal Rumble.
Is that Nicholas? Is that?
Yeah. Interesting enough, not even the only giant wrestler who Undertaker would come across during his career who would beat the shit out of him. Spoilers for 2006.
Teaser. So Gonzalez eliminates Taker.
Beating the Undertaker to the punch. He is gone. Can you imagine that? He stalked the Undertaker, then went and took it right to him and eliminated him. I've never seen the Undertaker mauled like this, manhandled. But who is this guy? As far as I'm concerned, he can be whoever he wants.
Gonzalez eliminates Taker. Taker is knocked out for ages and just lies there in the ring.
While the rest of the match is just carrying on.
Yeah. Until Paul Bearer comes out and revives the Undertaker, and even then, Undertaker's got a fucked up leg.
Yeah,
where the fuck was Paul Bearer?
I know. Yeah, there was no game plan here.
He was out the back, skinning up for later when Taker comes back, getting the munchies in.
And so we move to the second half of this Royal Rumble. I want to say the better half of the Royal Rumble, but really more of the same. 16, Terry Taylor, Damian Demento.
I didn't even clock that guy's name. I was like, who's this guy?
The only thing I took from Damien Demento is that I think kind of at the right angle he looks a little bit like Karrion Kross, or Karrion Kross looks a little bit like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Analysis.
IRS, Tatanka, Another Nasty Boy, Typhoon, Fatu, Earthquake.
Yeah, and then there was actually this was like the second bit of narrative in the whole Rumble was then when you had Typhoon and Earthquake going up against each other.
Yeah. Now,
that seemed really odd as well, the way Earthquake just went after Typhoon.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why.
Did this lead to something afterwards? Because
must have done.
It was a personal low point for me because there was a bit where they were both in the corner, very slowly just slamming into each other.
Yeah, they were just like tummy touching, weren't they?
Yeah, it's like two
Pumping
massive
whales.
lukewarm waves of lard just lapping against each other. It was quite grotesque.
There's been a lot of big guys discussed
and that was
this.
before Yokozuna even arrived.
He looked good in this though, Yoko.
Yeah.
Compared to everyone else, he looked really fast and nimble.
Let's fast forward to Yoko.
And
Come
so,
on, Sam.
yes,
Fly
Carlos
through who
Colon,
else?
Tito Santana, Rick Martel, Yokozuna, it always reminds me of Eddie Dennis going, "You're cool," but I can't do a Welsh accent, so
That was all right.
Yokozuna comes out, all 500 pounds of him. I think 500 pounds is generous as well.
I think he was slimmer here, actually.
Do you
I
think?
reckon.
Yeah,
His
I think
thighs. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
Absolute monster of a man. And yeah, he absolutely cleans house as well. Everyone has a go at eliminating him to no luck.
They have the bit with him and Earthquake, which again was, I made a note of it because it was one of the very few things I actually enjoyed was when those two sort of faced off, and you got Earthquake doing the classic jumping in the ring to try and shake it.
Oh yeah.
I quite enjoyed that.
I like
but then
Earthquake.
that's when Owen Hart came out, isn't it, Brett? And
Yeah.
basically you heard the ring and they didn't cut to the ramp. Every single person, well, apart from the guy who came out when Gonzalez came out, but everyone at least got a reference or the commentary sort of saying, oh, and here's this person. Poor old Owen Hart just pops up in the ring.
Yeah.
Whilst Earthquake and Yoko are doing their thing.
It's because he was too quick.
Yeah.
Same
that
with the
is-
speed of his exit from this. It was way too quick.
And that is the most egregious thing that will ever happen to Owen Hart in a WWF ring.
Oh, you can't make that
Okay.
joke, Sam.
Yeah,
Come on.
No, we'll get rid of that.
No,
Owen Hart
keep
is
it.
sacred territory. Yeah, it's definitely staying in. I'm not cutting that. Okay.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, we've said worse in this podcast. That
Number
we've kept
20,
in.
number 29, the Repo Man.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Everyone loves the Repo Man. And then number 30, they finally actually get an A-lister into the ring. The
I
Macho
know.
Man, Randy Savage. And
Star quality.
the crowd go nuts for this as well.
They're just
Yeah.
relieved.
Probably him and Taker and Flair probably really are the only star players in this, aren't they?
At this
Mr.
point in time, because
Perfect-ish.
Owen Hart was yet to be a star.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But easily my favourite of them all.
However, yeah, it was not to be. Yokozuna would go on to eliminate lots of people. Randy would have a decent run at it.
Yep.
Drop him with the elbow. Drop him with
Got
the
the
axe.
pin on.
Got the pin.
The pin. That all-important pin.
What I didn't understand as well with some of the storyline in this, right, was Savage kept on going to the turnbuckle to drop the axe handle on Yokozuna, trying to put him on the floor. And I'm like, you do not want that guy out on the floor because you're never
No.
getting him up.
Nope.
Yeah, they seem to portray Randy as kind of stupid in Rumbles because obviously the last Rumble we watched, he eliminated himself.
Yeah.
And this one,
And so, yeah, as per
Yeah.
1992,
And he goes
when
for the pin.
and
so funny.
as per 1992, when WWF decided not to give their wrestlers steroids anymore, after 1993, I think they stopped giving Randy Savage coke. Following
Although-
two very interesting rumbles.
I will say, while the pin was effing stupid, him being eliminated from that was amazing. Like him
Yeah.
being launched up, and obviously launching himself up and over the top rope for that was nice.
For those who haven't watched Royal Rumble 93, can you describe exactly how the how the Rumble finishes?
So he does. He drops the elbow, doesn't he? He goes up, drops the elbow, amazing, and then he tries to pin him. Like, and everyone knows it's a rumble except for Randy.
Except for Randy. Except for the man that counts.
And I can't, like, you know, obviously I was going to say I can't remember on what count. There is no count. It's a rumble. But like, then Yoko basically kicks out of the pin by literally launching Randy Savage over the top rope and out.
Indeed.
And that's how you won it. It was a great way to win it, but also like the most random, stupid thing for a rumble.
He's down! Yokozuna's down! Savage with the elbow! Pinfalls don't count! Oh, there we go! He threw him out from the floor!
One of the worst rumbles of all time.
It was
but one of the best endings.
terrible.
Don't know about that.
And yes, that was it. The Royal Rumble was won by Yokozuna. It was the first ever time that a shot at WrestleMania was on the line. A title shot at WrestleMania, I may add. And at the end of the year as well, 60% of this Rumble cast would not be employed by WWF anymore.
I find that shocking.
We saw the standard of the Rumble.
Yeah,
I'm surprised
indeed.
it wasn't more.
It was also the last time that we would have Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon on comms.
Oh, no.
really?
Okay, let's stop at volume 4, guys.
A moment for our fallen brethren. And that's it. So, out of 5.
Oh.
Go on, Brett, you start.
Oh, well. Oh, so Taker. I mean, I'll go with 2.5 again. Like,
For both?
not terrible. No, for the... Oh, yeah, I'll go for both, actually. While there was a lot of dross in this, there were a few, like, little funny moments and you know, like we say, so bad but good. So, like, yeah, there was entertainment to be had in small snippets.
It's just that small snippet lasted over an hour.
Yeah, I mean, it was long.
John?
I'm going 1.5 for the match and 2 for Taker.
About right. Adam?
Well, yeah, 1.5 for the match. Absolutely god awful. It's the funny things that sort of get it at the 0.5. So 1.5 for the match, and then I'll do 2.75 for Taker because he got a few eliminations, and I mean one thing that obviously is going to keep coming up is his selling. We bring it up in every episode, but I absolutely adore his selling, and I just think throughout this he did a good job as well.
I think I actually agree entirely with you, Adam. I think I would go 1.5 for the match, and I too will go 2.75 for The Undertaker.
Right, well I must have done something wrong if you're agreeing with me.
And that gives
Best for the pod.
the Royal Rumble an overall rating of 1.75 stars. Taker himself, 2.5. Not bad, not great, just kind of middle of the road. And yes, following on from the Royal Rumble beatdown at the hands of Giant Gonzalez, the next step, of course, would be revenge. And the next opportunity would be WrestleMania. But that is a story for the next Undertaking.
How many times have we seen this over the years? A superstar prone over the apron, Undertaker in this position to drop a 300-pound leg drop right across his throat.
There you go. Thank you so much again to you, Sam, for all your hard work. Loads of research. Do you kind of regret suggesting the Undertaking?
A little bit, yeah.
Not surprised. I absolutely love turning up and not having to worry about hosting. And that's mostly because you do a grand job. So well done.
Oh,
thank you. God, that was quite sincere and a bit corny. Let's wrap this whole thing up. Next week, we are back with a pod. Not entirely sure what yet. Probably a top 5. So keep an eye on our social media. We may well do a poll, get you guys to help us pick, or we'll at least want some suggestions for what we do pick. If people want to get in touch, Brett, tell them how.
They can send their emails to hardestpartofthering@gmail.com or catch us on Instagram, Twitter. We're on Facebook, but we don't really
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Just delete. Let's
Don't go
delete
there.
that.
That's
Facebook
our parts
is-
unknown. We are at Hardest Part Pod.
Lovely. Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you to everybody for listening. Please rate and review and subscribe. There's a new Pod Bible magazine that came out on Sunday. Yes, I remembered to mention it, so go and check that out if you want to. And until we are back next week, it is goodbye from me, Adam. Goodbye, Sam.
Matt, I'm going to go get high with Paul Bearer.
Oh, my God, I'm up for that. Goodbye,
yeah.
John.
420 bros.
Goodbye, Brett.
Goodbye.
That was the hardest part of the ring.
That is the hardest